Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Bugnot, and this is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I interview a Black woman a day for 29 straight days. And today I am super delighted to have Chanel Ali, who's an amazing comedian, to tell us about all her story and how she got here. I can't wait you all to take a listen. Hey, Chanel.
Hey, thanks so much for having me and happy Black History Month.
Hey, happy Black History Month. Thank you so much. So delighted that you're able to join us. So, first question, always the same. Answer is always amazing. I can't imagine yours will not be. So, Chanel, what was your first job?
Oh man, as most comedians, I have a really wild background of a lot of jobs. But in high school, I would say my first job that really felt like a commitment was that I worked for a catering company. And in retrospect, it was probably illegal that they had me waitressing these weddings and big events, but I used to get paid cash and I always got to eat the food and I just really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed like being at a party and doing whatever. But prior to that, when I was in high school, I actually made money because I worked in the front office of my high school and I started selling little like excuses for missing a class. So if you missed a class and you
What?
needed to, yeah, it was a really great hustle that I came up with.
I was gonna say this is a brilliant hustle.
Yes. So I would tell someone, hey, I saw in the computer that you missed fifth period yesterday. They're going to send a letter to your house if you don't do something about that. You got about 3 days to play with. But hey, for $20 in a Snickers bar, I can make that all go away for you. So I ran a lot of hustles when I was in high school to try to like make money before I could get like a really real job. But yeah, then I ended up being a waitress until I graduated high school.
So wait, what kind of excuses did you come up with?
Well, it would just be like it's like if your parent wrote you a note. Remember back in the day your dad would say like, "Oh, she's gonna miss fifth period because she has a doctor's appointment. I'm picking
Right.
her up, I'm taking her, whatever." So I would just skip that process and give you the excuse, the actual like admin piece of paper that said we got a note from your parent that said your excuse. So then they could show the teacher and get credit for the missing it. So it was like, I would just make it up out of thin air.
That's a
Yeah.
brilliant hustle.
I know.
Did you make some good money off of this?
I did, yeah. And then even like when we had our winter ball, which was like a really exclusive event, they only sold so many tickets, but the tickets were stupid. They were like pieces of card stock that just they had printed out. So I just printed out some more and sold them.
I love this. It's called natural entrepreneurship. That's what one does.
That's right. That's right. I was hustling since a very early age. I can't even really explain what it was. I think it was more so that I fell in love with watching and learning systems. And then when I would spot a hole in it, to exploit that hole was like exciting to me. So when I realized that these winter ball tickets were worth so much money and they were only so many, I was like, there's nothing on them. They have no system in place to track how many have been sold or how many have come into a building. So yeah, I just exploited it.
I think it's like you saw a sales opportunity and you took it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So that's just basic business. There's a market opportunity and you had product market fit and
Hmm.
you just used it for your own benefit. Like that is
I
that is
said
basic capitalism.
I said the demand is high.
Right. You serve a demand.
Yes.
I mean, I brilliant hustle. Okay, so after, being extremely entrepreneurial in high school, let's call it that, to where we are now, what's that career journey been like?
I did the very traditional thing of going to college, and I didn't hustle too hard to sneak into college. I did it the real way. But I chose advertising as a major because I wanted to study business, but I also wanted to study some creative part, and I knew that an advertising major was going to give me both sides of that world in a way that a marketing degree or something more kind of focused wasn't. And luckily, I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, and I just had so much exposure to art during those years that I just started going to open mics and being around performers. And, we had, Jill Scott perform at the school, and Questlove and the Roots were there. And it was just like this energy of really dope black art that I was surrounded by that really kind of awakened in me, I would say what I always knew, which is that I was a comedian. I always knew that since I was a very little girl. But I just had become used to like not dreaming that big, and it felt irrational to me to think that I could become a professional comedian. So I went to college and I studied advertising thinking I could write funny commercials. And so then as soon as I graduated and I had, just a little more time to focus, I went to my first open mic and tried comedy for the first time. And as soon as I got on stage, I was like, oh, this is that thing for sure. This is the thing that I've been, searching for all the meaning in life. And, this light feels different. And it almost felt like I knew where I was suddenly. Like I had been wandering in the world. And then suddenly under that light, I was like, oh, I know exactly where I am. And I know exactly who I am and what I'm supposed to do in this life. And it's got to be this. And so then it still took a lot of time to really commit to it. But then I just did the very old school grinded from the way up. I started at open mics until I started getting booked at independent shows. I moved to New York City. I got a manager. I got on MTV's Girl Code. And after that, everything just started to fall into place. And now I make all of my money off of comedy or acting. And I'm dreaming big still every day.
That's amazing. And I love that you've now made a full-time career. Like, what are some of the kind of tips and tools for folks? Because I think a lot of folks, well, I'm funny, so I can go ahead and do this. It's like, no, it isn't. This is a job. This is a career.
Yeah. I think that we sometimes confuse them with like clowns or other professions that don't require as much of a meticulous nature as it does to perfect your skill and your ability to craft a joke. Like learning to craft a joke is a skill that you have to learn and then hone and then practice over and over again. And so it really comes down to minutes performed. A lot of comedians don't realize that it's actually a minutes game in your early days because every time you do comedy, you only get 5 minutes or less sometimes in the beginning, which is like unusual for any other thing in the world that you want to try. If you want to become a professional basketball player, you can go buy a basketball and practice all day, all night, hours and hours. You can go buy a violin and practice every day. It could become your whole life, but comedy requires certain constraints. So, in the beginning you just have to get those minutes on stage, those 10,000 hours of practice, and then study. There's lots of resources, and then when you're ready to shift to being a business owner, because that's what I am. I own a small business. It's called Chanel Ali. It's the business that I run. So when you're ready to do that, then you start to think differently than just being creative. You start to think about your social media and how easy it is for someone to reach you, and hanging out and shaking hands and networking with other entertainment individuals, and sometimes even just writing someone and saying, hey, I see you have a show and I've been doing comedy this long and I really think I would do great on that, in that that area. And so then you have to start pitching yourself, but it's a process, and it's just like any other system that I have become obsessed with. I have learned a lot of routes to run it, but it really just comes down to staying on stage and deciding who you are, because that's what we work on in the beginning. We're not just trying to be silly. We're trying to figure out like who we are and what we're talking about. Like what do we care about?
I think that's super helpful because I think there's so many folks, again, who just think, oh, it's just easy. I tell jokes with my friends. I'm the funniest person in group of my friend group. They're like, yeah, no, this is a real job.
Yeah. And it's a commitment to art. I always, because I teach comedy, so I always tell my comedy students, Denzel Washington still takes acting classes. He still does that. And
Yeah.
and at this point you would wonder why are you even bothering? And it's because he knows what's true, and that is that the best art student is the best artist. So yeah, if you want to study stand up, you have to respect it as an art form and then devote the time to becoming an artist.
Oh, I love that. So, you're now a full-time comedian. It is your job. Tell me about time we had a challenge. You're like, there's no way I'm getting through this, and then you did.
Oh man, so many times it's hard to pick, but one that was particularly crazy is 2 years ago. I got together the money to go to Scotland. I wanted to perform in the Edinburgh Fringe Fest, which is like one of the biggest comedy festivals in the world. And I only had enough money for a one-way ticket. I didn't have enough money for a round trip ticket. The money that I did have, I was going to need to spend while I was there. And so I just went anyway. I just went. And I just kept telling myself, which I often do when I come into a scenario like this, is that I just kind of develop a mantra for the scenario. And so during that period, my mantra was, it's going to be okay. Something's going to happen. The phone
Mm-hmm.
is going to ring, an email is going to come. Something's going to happen, Chanel. The universe knows your heart and what you're trying to do. You're not trying to be sneaky or, get over on anybody. You're just trying to go tell jokes and like live and be honest. So I'm there for like a week and I'm still starting to get afraid that maybe I just live in Scotland now and I'll never come back because I don't have any money to buy a plane ticket.
Where were you staying?
I was staying with a friend. Luckily, a friend had a spare bedroom that we traded actually because he was running a show there, so he let me stay there in exchange for doing his show every day. So it was like I was working every day while I was there. So I had a lot of things sorted out. I just did not have enough money to get on that plane, and so then I'm there for a few days, and I get an email from a woman who I'd done a festival with in Portland, Oregon, years ago, and she says, "Hey, I know this is last minute, but can you headline this comedy festival in about a week? It's in Portland, Oregon, and we'll pay you, and we can, get your travel." And I was like, I wrote her back, and I was like, I could do it, but I need you to fly me from Scotland." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I will do it. I will do it. Absolutely. It is last minute. I will do it, but I need you to fly me from where I am now to where you are." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And so then 5 minutes later, she sent me the plane ticket. And when I was looking at this plane ticket in my hand, I just could not even believe. I mean, I watched it happen. I was a part of every step, but the fact that that it was in my hand, I could not believe that I figured that out, that the dates aligned perfectly. It was literally she actually had the we had the time for her to fly me from Scotland to New York so that I could drop off my bag and have a day of rest, and then she flew me from New York to Portland, Oregon, and Portland, Oregon back.
Wow.
Yeah.
You and I are very similar because I have done similar things where like I have no plan
Yeah.
other than like I need to be at this place
Yeah.
and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do when I'm here, but I'm gonna figure it out
Absolutely.
and
And I really believe in it.
it works it out. I mean, it's whatever you believe. It's a universe, it's God, whatever it may be, but
Yeah. I just think that,
somehow.
sometimes it's like there's powers that be that want to give us exactly what we want,
Hmm.
but they need to see a step of faith first.
Yeah.
And we want to be so safe that we want to know the path already. We need to see it illuminated. And it's like, oh, it's actually not going to appear until you take one step first.
Yeah, it's like if you don't take the step, then we're not gonna help you take the next step.
Yeah.
So we gotta see you making the effort before we can
Hmm.
go forward.
Hmm.
And I am right there with you because in my career, I have pulled many a similar stunt of like, I'm not exactly sure how it's gonna work,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah, I've
let's
always
just
been that way. I've been the type of person always to just if I'm feeling motivated by something, I throw 1,000% at it, like everything I have, until the point where somebody else would say, "That seems like a gamble," and I'm like, "Yes, I do believe in myself. Yes, I do believe. Thank you so much."
like listen, I have a strong sense of self, and
Hmm.
therefore I can do this. Yeah, no, I same. I have said that's really similar. I pulled something almost as close to that, but in Europe, in another European city. And it worked. It was like, and you called at the right time.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
So, no, I totally get it. So, being a full-time comedian obviously is probably extremely stressful. So, what do you do for your self-care?
I really love doing my hair. I really luxuriate in that, and I'm all about braid outs and twist outs, and like sometimes I'll just do my hair twice in a day just because I feel like it, and it just feels like such a self-love thing. I just love my hair. I'm really in love with my hair, and
Oh,
it amazes me all the things I can do with it, that just how beautiful it is naturally, or when I straighten it or twist it, braid it, whatever. I'm just always like, wow, look at what you can do, and look at what style you can have today, how different I my face looks in a certain way, so I really luxuriate in that activity. Music is very important to me. I live in my headphones. I had a show last night where this girl was really mad at me because she was like, "I've been screaming your name for 2 blocks. I was trying to chase you," and I just couldn't hear her because I was in my headphones, and just vibing out to some Aretha Franklin. Like I was just having a great night. I'm one of those people that lives in a world of yes. So if I'm not on stage or working on my career, then if somebody invites me to do something, I almost always say yes unless I have like a really good reason to say no. So I get on a plane and we go somewhere random or I have a dinner with people I've never met and it's just I try to live a life that's exciting and also kind of feeds me creatively to have new experiences and meet new people and new perspectives. Um, and then also like getting my eyebrows done and like my hair sometimes. Sometimes I'll get fancy, go to a salon.
I love this. Yeah, same. I love my hair. Um, but I'm also
Shout out to our hair.
but I'm super lazy. So that's why I have a curly weave now. 'Cause I'm like, yeah, this makes life easier.
When I was a little girl, I used to judge Beyonce so much for always having like weaves and wigs. I think I came from the household where it was like, well, why don't you have your own hair out? And then I became a performer, and I was like, oh no 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 no, I need to sew in. Has someone please braid this down and put a wig on me? Because sometimes I have two, 3 shows a night, and it's exhausting to keep my hair looking good. And I ran through the city, so. Well, I love doing my hair. Every once in a while, I will put it up.
Yeah, I mean, I swear, like I said, I love my hair, but it drives me crazy. And so I was just like, I one day when I went to go get my hair done, they ran out of hair, so the only hair they had was like curly hair, and I'm like, oh, I've never had curly hair before, sure. And I was like,
Yeah,
wait, I don't have to do anything with this. I just have to like twist it at night, and then in the morning untwist it, and it's still curly. We're done. That was 2 years ago.
yeah.
Um, and I haven't gone back since. I'm like, yeah, this is the life.
You got a lot of hours back. I can't blame you.
Yeah, the hours are really important. So looking back on all the stuff you've done, especially in that light of just like figuring out and hustling and just nailing it, what would you tell 18-year-old Chanel?
Hmm. Um, I would tell her that it's okay if nobody is championing your decisions. It's okay if the people in your life don't understand you. And it's okay if you find yourself more attracted to art and music and people who are extraordinary because maybe you're supposed to be with them.
Surrounding, it's interesting. I know part of the reason I love doing 29 days is that I get to meet all these amazing Black women who I don't know.
Hmm.
And the one thing that is so delightful about all of this is that the words of wisdom
Hmm.
come through are just, oh my gosh. And that is another one. It was just like just being around remarkable, really delightful, interesting people. Like
Yeah,
folks don't realize that.
absolutely. And I was traveling not too long ago. I was in Chicago and I met a young black lady comedian. And she was telling me that she felt a little bullied by her comedy scene. She said that she felt like they would often make fun of her comedy act and the way that she would dress. And like sometimes some of the characters she would play, that they would kind of chalk it up to like, she's doing this different thing, it's not really part of our scene. And that it was bothering her. And I told her, maybe they never met nobody like you.
Hmm.
Maybe that's okay. That's okay that you're introducing them to something that is unfamiliar. I think that speaks so highly to how you're pushing the boundary and how you're going to create something that's never been done before. And that's what we need. So yeah, I hope that I know she moved away from Chicago, so I know she's feeling better.
Good. But yeah, no, that honestly, that is so true. It's like sometimes they ain't ready for this party.
Yeah. And
Um,
when I started doing comedy or just being around other artists, especially like around 18-year-old Chanel to my early 20s, I felt like a lot of people in my life didn't really understand how my lifestyle was changing. I was spending all this time at these comedy clubs. I was hanging out late. I was smoking weed. I was drinking. I was in an alley sometimes talking. all hours in the morning. And to the outside, to the people who knew me as a different type of person, it was like shocking to them. They started to push their fears off on me and, warn me about, moving. You can't move to New York City and try to be a comedian. That sounds crazy, but it's like people are going to, they're going to feel afraid to watch you change. And that's okay because you're going to find people that are going to be blown away by watching you morph and grow and grow and grow. And you got to make room for those people.
I think that's the thing is that like you have to be open to that your world is going to be drastically different than what it was when you were 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Um,
Absolutely. And if I could say one last thing to any Black women, I would love to tell you that, we all have a hard day. Like we've all had that one day in our life that was just harder than any other day, and everything changed, and we felt this naivete that we had disappear, and we understood what the world really is made out of. And sometimes we have to go back and give ourselves credit for surviving that day, so that way we can be more honest about the strength that we have and the confidence that we really have and who we really are and what, we're capable of, because we don't have to ever feel that we're held back by anything traumatic we've experienced. We're strong because every single day since then, we got up and we kept going.
well, I wasn't expecting a sermon, but thank you. Who would thought the comedians would come on would be the one who preaches a sermon? Oh my God.
It's a hefty responsibility.
Yes, with big power comes responsibility. I can't say anything more. Perfect. All right, second last question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
Hmm. Yeah, I'd love for you guys to chase your dreams, big or small. If your dream tomorrow is to find the tallest building in the city that you live in and go up there and enjoy a nice view, then go accomplish that dream as or try as hard as you can. And if it's bigger than that, then break it down into small pieces and let's chop those away too, because life is short and also long, and we got to start dreaming so that we can live.
So, did you just come here with these gems, just like ready to
This
go?
is how I talk. Would you believe? Can you imagine the text messages I send my friends? They're like, Chanel, my gosh, this is a poem.
Like, damn, woman. Okay. All right, this is fantastic. Okay. Last question. What's one thing that brings you joy?
Well, I would say the thing that brings me the most joy is laughter. I like the actual physical experience of laughing, the way that it fills up your brain completely. You can't think about your bill that's due, the guy that didn't text you back, that crazy thing that happened at work. Like, you just don't have as much space in your brain to even go there while you're laughing. There's been so much research about how it's healing. I've seen it with my own eyes, somebody be in like a terrible physical pain and then just go into a fit of laughter because something funny happened and they forget about it for just a little bit, and it's just bliss and it's beautiful and powerful. And I love watching basements full of strangers just come together to giggle. I just think it's amazing. It's amazing that humans do that, and it brings me joy.
Awesome. I love it. And again, more gems. Thanks. Oh my gosh, no, you're just wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I mean, this was so like impactful and impacting so many bits of goodness.
Yeah, it feels so great to be able to chat to Black women.
You got that spark and fire that we all have, and you enunciate it in such delightful ways. So I greatly appreciate you joining me for 29 Days of Magic. We'll put the details in the show notes for following you on social, seeing where you're performing next, and coming to see you. I'm definitely down to come see you and hear your set. But it's been an absolute delight, and I think like I said, you had wonderful, wonderful gems that folks can definitely take to heart. So thank you so much for being part of the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me and have a good day. I'll see you soon.
Cool. And that is our show.